The bite that started it all. The twin suns of Korath 5 were sinking low, painting the alien marketplace in shades of gold and deep purple. Stalls lined the wide streets, each one glowing with strange lights and filled with goods that no human had ever seen on Earth. The air was warm, heavy with the smell of roasted fire fruit, metallic spices, and something sharp like ozone. Every few seconds, the sound of alien voices rose and fell, some high and musical, others low and rumbling. Commander Jace Hale walked through the crowd, his boots crunching over the smooth black stone. His mission here was simple: represent. Humanity and trade, talks with the locals, make friends, and avoid trouble. He had been to alien worlds before, but Korath 5 felt different. There was a tension in the air, like everyone was waiting for something to happen. He stopped at a stall, where a merchant with 4 glittering eyes was selling glowing crystals. Jace picked one up carefully. It pulsed with a faint light, like it had a heartbeat. The merchant smiled, revealing sharp silver teeth. "Good energy stone," the alien said in broken English. "Bring luck, or danger." Jace chuckled politely, set it back down, and was about to move on when he felt a tap on his arm. He turned and froze. Standing in front of him was a young alien girl. Her skin shimmered with a soft blue glow, her eyes bright like molten silver. She wasn't dressed like most of the locals. Instead of armor or heavy robes, she wore a light tunic and a small braided necklace of black thread. She tilted her head, studying him with curious eyes. Hello?" Jace said, his translator device automatically picking up his words. The girl smiled, and then, without warning, she leaned forward and bit him. Her teeth were sharp, but the bite wasn't deep enough to draw blood. It was quick, more like a sudden pinch, but strong enough to make him wince. "Ouch!" Jace laughed nervously, rubbing his arm. "What was that for?" The girl didn't answer. She just stepped back, her smile fading into something unreadable. Around them, the marketplace went silent. Conversations stopped. Merchants froze. Even the hum of alien music seemed to die away. Jace looked around in confusion. Is this normal here?" he asked, no one in particular. But the way every alien was staring at him, wide-eyed, whispering to each other in low, urgent tones, made it clear that it was anything but normal. The merchant he had just spoken to shook his head slowly. "Human," the alien murmured. "You do not know what she has done." Jace's brow furrowed. "What did she do?" "She bit me." The merchant leaned closer, his 4 eyes darting nervously to the girl. "That is not a bite. That is a mark. You are chosen." Before Jace could ask more, the girl turned and walked away, disappearing into the crowd. He started after her, but 2 armored guards suddenly stepped into his path. They were tall, with black masks that hid their faces, and each carried a long spear tipped with a blade that shimmered like liquid light. One of the guards spoke in the alien tongue, fast and clipped. Jace's translator struggled to keep up. "Marked, must, present, before council." "What council?" Jace demanded. But they didn't answer. They just stood there, blocking his way, their silver eyes reflecting the last light of the suns. The crowd's whispers grew louder now, though Jace couldn't understand most of it. Only one phrase repeated over and over, passed from alien to alien like a warning: chosen blood. That night, back at the small inn where he was staying, Jace sat on his bed, turning the strange moment over in his mind. He had been on diplomatic missions before. He had seen strange customs, even stranger greetings. But this had been different. His arm still tingled where she had bitten him. He rolled up his sleeve to check. To his shock, there was a faint mark. Not a bruise, not a scar, but a thin, glowing symbol shaped like two curved lines circling a dot. It pulsed faintly, as if alive. Jace stared at it, unsettled. He had no idea what it meant. A faint sound outside his window broke his thoughts. A soft, scraping noise like claws on stone. He moved quietly to the window and peered out. The narrow alley behind the inn was empty, shadows stretching long under the pale moonlight. But just before he stepped back, he thought he saw a figure standing at the far end of the alley, small, still, and glowing faintly blue. The alien girl. She was watching him, and then she smiled. The same strange smile from before, melting into the shadows and vanishing from sight. Jace stepped back from the window, his pulse quickening. Whatever had just happened in that Merit place, it was far from over. And deep down, some part of him knew this was only the beginning. Whispers in the crowd. The morning light on Korath 5 was harsh, spilling over the city's high crystal towers and reflecting down into the streets like shards of fire. The marketplace was alive again. Merchants shouting prices, strange animals pulling carts, children darting between stalls. Yet, as Commander Jace Hale walked through it, he felt every eye following him. He tried to tell himself it was his uniform. The blue and black Earth Fleet jacket with the silver crest on his shoulder. Humans were still new here, after all. But deep down, he knew it was because of yesterday, because of her, the alien girl, the bite, the glowing mark that still pulsed faintly on his arm. He kept his sleeve rolled down, hiding it, but the crowd didn't need to see it to know. Everywhere he went, aliens paused mid-sentence to glance his way, whisper to a friend, then look away quickly, as if afraid he might hear. At a food stall, a hunched alien woman selling skewers of red steaming meat leaned closer to him. Her voice was a raspy whisper. "It is dangerous, human. Leave before it begins." Jace frowned. "Before what begins?" But the woman only shook her head, her four thin fingers curling over the edge of her stall. "I will not speak it. Not here." She shoved a skewer into his hand and turned away, refusing payment. He walked on, uneasy. The voices in the crowd seemed to follow him, snippets of a language he barely understood, but his translator caught fragments. Chosen blood, the trial, the bond. Each time he heard those words, the mark on his arm seemed to tingle, as if it knew it was being talked about. He was so distracted he didn't notice the two guards until they stepped directly into his path. They were the same ones, from yesterday. Tall, broad, their armor black as night, silver masks hiding their faces. One raised a hand, palm outward, in a gesture that was somewhere between a greeting and a command to stop. The other spoke in a sharp, clipped tone. The translator in Jace's ear sputtered and struggled before forming the words, "The council requests your presence. Immediately." "I'm busy," Jace said flatly, trying to step past them. But both moved in perfect sync to block him again. "This is not a request," the second guard said. Before Jace could argue, a new voice came from behind him, smooth, deep, and oddly calm. "Let him go." Jace turned to see a figure in a long, hooded cloak standing just beyond the market's shade. The cloak was made of some dark, woven material that shimmered faintly when it caught the light. The figure stepped closer, and Jace caught a glimpse of his face, older, lined with pale blue skin and eyes that burned like embers. The guard stiffened but didn't move against him. The hooded alien stopped in front of Jace. "Walk with me, human," he said quietly. Something in his tone made Jace follow without question. They moved through the crowd, away from the guards, ducking into a narrow side street where the noise of the market faded into an eerie stillness. "I saw what happened yesterday," the alien said without turning his head. "I saw her mark you." "Mark me? You mean the bite?" Jace asked. The alien stopped walking and finally looked at him fully. That bite is no game. It is an ancient signal, older than the stones of this city. It binds you to her. It declares you, hers, and it calls the trial. Jace's brow furrowed. Trial? What kind of trial? The alien's eyes flickered to the mouth of the alley, as if checking for eavesdroppers. A deadly one. One you will not survive unless you understand what she has done to you. He stepped closer, lowering his voice even more. Leave this planet tonight, human. Disappear before they take you. Because once the trial begins, there is no escape. Before Jace could speak, the alien turned and slipped back into the shadows, vanishing like smoke. Jace stood alone in the alley, the hum of the marketplace faint in the distance. His arm was tingling again. He rolled up his sleeve, and the mark was brighter now, the curved lines glowing as if reacting to the warning he'd just been given. He didn't understand what any of it meant. But he was certain of one thing. Someone didn't want him to leave, and someone else desperately needed him to. That was when he heard it, the sound of metal boots on stone. He looked up to see the two masked guards at the end of the alley, their spears glinting in the sunlight, and standing between them was the alien girl. She didn't speak. She only stared at him with that strange, unreadable expression. And then she smiled. It was not the smile of someone happy to see him. It was the smile of someone who knew exactly what was coming next. The bite's secret, Jace didn't sleep that night. Even with the inn's heavy shutters closed, strange lights from the city leaked in through the cracks, soft pulses of blue and red, like the heartbeat of some giant machine outside. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the alien girl's face, and that smile that made his stomach tighten. He sat at the small wooden desk in his room, his sleeve rolled up. The mark on his arm glowed faintly in the dim light. Two curved lines, around a dot shifting slightly as if alive. It wasn't a wound. There was no pain. But every so often, it would send a warm wave through his arm up to his chest, then fade again. It felt like it was waiting. He tried to ignore it, flipping through his data pad, searching the fleet's cultural database for anything about chosen blood or alien-biting rituals. Nothing came up. Either this was a tradition too obscure for their files, or the locals had deliberately kept it secret from outsiders. Around midnight, he heard the sound again, the same soft scratching outside his door. Not footsteps, something lighter, like nails brushing stone. Jace's hand instinctively went to the sidearm in his holster. He moved silently to the door and pressed his ear against it. The scratching stopped. Then, a whisper, not in English, not in any language he'd heard, but somehow the meaning slid into his mind like it had always been there. Come. The word wasn't sound, it was thought. Direct. Clear. And it came from the mark on his arm. Jace stepped back quickly, his breathing unsteady. What the hell? The mark pulsed brighter, and for an instant images flashed in his head. A black stone arena lit by torches, a crowd chanting in low, booming tones, and the alien girl standing at the center, her eyes locked on him. The vision vanished as quickly as it came, leaving his heart racing. He splashed water on his face from the basin, trying to shake it off. But as soon as he looked in the mirror, he froze. For a split second, his reflection was not his own. His eyes glowed silver, his skin shimmered faintly blue, and on his neck, just below the jawline, was the faint imprint of the same mark that was on his arm. He stumbled back, blinking hard, and when he looked again, his reflection was normal. The knock came just then, sharp and heavy. He reached for his gun, but the door swung open before he touched it. The two masked guards stepped inside without a word. Behind them, the alien girl entered, her braided necklace swaying gently as she moved. Human, one of the guards said, his voice flat. It is time. Jace backed up. Time for what? The girl finally spoke. For you to understand what you are now. Her voice was soft, but it carried an unshakable authority. She stepped closer, her silver eyes glowing faintly. When I bit you, I gave you more than a mark. I gave you a link. My blood is in yours now. My senses, my instincts, my strength, they will grow in you. But so will my enemies. Jace swallowed hard. Why me? She tilted her head slightly as if studying him. Because you are not afraid to bleed. Before he could ask what that meant, she reached out and touched the mark on his arm. The moment her fingers brushed it, the warmth in his body surged, flooding every nerve, every muscle. His vision sharpened until he could see the smallest cracks in the walls. He could hear the slow drip of water somewhere in the building, and beneath it all. He could hear her heartbeat, steady and strong. He stumbled back, overwhelmed. What? What did you do to me? Her lips curved into that same strange smile. I prepared you for the trial. The guard stepped forward, and one placed a black, metallic collar around Jace's neck. It locked with a sharp click. What's this? Jace demanded. The girl's eyes darkened. It is the only thing keeping the bond from consuming you before the trial begins. The room seemed colder now. Jace didn't understand the full meaning of her words, but he knew one thing. The bite was changing him. And whatever this trial was, it was coming for him fast. Somewhere deep inside, a part of him he didn't recognize was no longer afraid. It was waiting, a warning from the shadows. The streets of Korath 5 were quiet after dark, but it wasn't the peaceful kind of quiet. It was the kind that made you feel like something was watching you from every shadow. Commander Jace Hale walked quickly, the two masked guards flanking him like silent statues. The alien girl was a few paces ahead, her braids swinging gently against her back. She hadn't spoken since they left the inn. She didn't need to. The mark on his arm was doing all the talking. It pulsed in rhythm with her steps, as if it knew she was near. Sometimes the glow was soft, almost gentle. Other times, it throbbed harder, like a drumbeat in his veins. Jace didn't like it. He didn't like that his body was reacting without his permission. The streets narrowed until the buildings leaned over them, blocking out the starlight. This wasn't the main road to the council chambers. He was sure of it. Where are you taking me? He asked. The girl didn't turn around. Somewhere you need to be. The guards didn't speak. They never did. They passed under an archway made of black stone, its surface covered with alien runes that seemed to shimmer when Jace looked at them directly. He slowed his pace to glance at them, but one of the guards gave a low grunt, urging him forward, and then it happened. A figure stepped out from an alley ahead, blocking their path. Cloaked in dark fabric, the hood shadowed his face, but Jace recognized the way he moved. Slow, deliberate, unafraid. It was the same man who had stopped him in the marketplace, the one who had told him to leave. The guards instantly raised their spears, but the man ignored them. His voice was low, but it carried through the air. Release him! The alien girl's eyes narrowed. You have no authority here. The hooded man stepped closer, his gaze fixed on Jace. You still don't know what's coming, human. She hasn't told you everything. She won't. Jace's heart pounded. Then you tell me. The girl's voice cut sharp through the air. Don't listen to him. But the hooded man kept talking, his tone urgent now. The trial is not a test of courage. It is a blood rite. Once it begins, the bond she gave you will take control. You will fight not because you choose to, but because you must. You will be bound to her will until one of you dies." The words made Jace's stomach twist. He looked at the girl, but her face was unreadable. The man stepped closer, ignoring the guard's spears aimed at his chest. "There's still a way out. Tonight. Before they bind you fully. You must—" He didn't finish. One of the guards moved faster than Jace's eyes could follow, striking the man across the face with the butt of his spear. The hooded figure staggered back, hitting the wall, but instead of retreating, he just smiled, a small, knowing smile, and pressed something into Jace's hand. Jace closed his fingers around it instinctively. It was small, metallic, and warm. The girl gave a sharp order in her own language, and the guards shoved the man into the shadows, their movements precise, almost rehearsed. By the time Jace blinked, the hooded man was gone. The girl finally turned, to him, her silver eyes locking onto his. "You will ignore his words." Jace didn't answer. He kept his hand closed around the object the man had given him. As they moved on, he felt it pressing into his palm, a thin metal disc with strange grooves etched into it. He had no idea what it was, but deep down, he knew it wasn't just a piece of scrap. It was a message, or a key. The mark on his arm pulsed harder now, almost as if it could sense the object, and for the first time, Jace realized something chilling. The bond between him and the alien girl wasn't just one way. If he could feel her heartbeat, maybe she could feel his fear. The trial of the bite, the city of Korath 5 slept under a blanket of deep violet night, but not the arena. Jace felt the vibration long before he saw it. The ground itself seemed to hum, a slow, steady rhythm like a giant heartbeat beneath the streets. The masked guards led him through twisting corridors cut into the bedrock, lit by torches that burned with green flame. The air grew warmer with every step, carrying the scent of stone dust, hot metal, and something wilder, the musky tang of an animal pen. The alien girl walked ahead, her posture straight, her braids swaying with each step. She hadn't spoken to him since the encounter with the hooded man, but every so often, she would glance back at him, her silver eyes flickering like they were checking the strength of something invisible between them. Finally, the tunnel opened into blinding light. Jace stepped out into the arena. It was enormous. A perfect circle carved from black stone, its walls rising high into the night, lined with tier after tier of alien spectators, thousands of them. Some were tall and armored, others small and cloaked, but all of them were staring down at Dao, him in absolute silence. Above them, massive banners of shifting light hung in the air, displaying strange runes that shimmered as if alive. In the center of the arena floor, the black stone was smooth, except for a single wide gate on the far side, sealed with thick bars that looked like they had been forged from starlight itself. The hum beneath Jace's feet deepened, and the crowd began to chant, low at first, then louder, a rolling wave of alien voices. His translator earpiece couldn't catch every word, but the meaning was clear enough. Chosen blood. Trial of the bond. Let it begin. The alien girl stepped into the center of the arena and raised her voice so all could hear. "I, Soren, Vera of the Ninth House, present my chosen." She pointed toward Jace, her silver eyes glowing faintly. "He bears my mark. He carries my blood. He will face the trial." The crowd erupted, stomping their feet in a steady rhythm. Jace's pulse quickened. "What exactly is the trial?" he asked under his breath. Soren's lips curved into a small smile. Survival. The gate on the far side began to rise. The sound was like metal tearing, deep and resonant. A blast of hot, heavy air rolled out from the darkness beyond. Jace squinted into the shadows, and something inside moved. Stepped into the light slowly, one massive claw at a time. The creature's body was a mountain of muscle covered in dark, scaled hide that shimmered like oil. 4 golden eyes glowed in its broad skull, and each breath was a rumble, sending steam curling from its nostrils. Its tail, barbed and long, as a spear, scraped across the stone, leaving deep grooves in its wake. The crowd roared. Jace's hand twitched toward the small metal disc hidden in his pocket, the one the hooded man had given him. He didn't know why, but its surface felt warmer now, almost vibrating in sync with the hum in the arena. The mark on his arm flared to life, flooding his body with sudden heat. His vision sharpened instantly. The details of the beast's movements slowed, like time itself was stretching. He could hear its claws clicking against the stone, the faint rush of blood in its veins, the whisper of its tail cutting through the air. Soren's voice echoed in his head, though her lips didn't move. "We are bound. Your strength is mine. My instincts are yours. Fight well, human, or we both die." The beast lowered its head, its golden eyes locking on Jace. Then, with a sound like thunder splitting the sky, it charged. The bond awakens. The beast's charge shook the entire arena. Every step was a deep boom through the stone floor, every exhale a blast of hot, steaming air. Its tail whipped behind it like a living whip of metal and bone, and its claws gouged deep scars into the black surface with each stride. Jace's first instinct was to run. Every part of his human training screamed at him to dodge, keep distance, use speed over strength. But then the mark on his arm pulsed. Once, hard, and everything changed. The world slowed. The sound of the crowd's roar stretched into a long, echoing wave. The beast's movements, though massive, became readable, each muscle tightening before the next step, the slight twitch before it swung its claws. He could see the strike before it happened. He could feel the moment it would turn its head, the exact angle of its lunge. Soren's voice slipped into his mind again, calm and commanding. Left, duck, strike, low. Jace moved without thinking, his body reacting to her instructions faster than his own mind could process. He dove to the left, just as the beast's claws ripped through the space where his head had been, the wind from the blow hot against his cheek. His knee hit the stone, but he rolled with it, coming up in a crouch. The crowd roared again, this time louder, some in approval, others in anger. The beast wheeled around, its golden eyes burning with fury. It lunged again, mouth wide, revealing rows of jagged teeth that glistened with thick saliva. Jace's heart pounded. "Now!" Soren's mental voice was sharp, urgent. He dove forward, toward the beast, not away, and slid under its massive head, feeling the heat of its breath pass over his back. The barbed tail lashed toward him, but his hand moved before he could think, catching it mid-swing. It was like grabbing a steel cable, but somehow his fingers held, and that's when he realized it. The strength wasn't his alone. It was hers. The bond between them burned bright, flowing strength into his muscles, speed into his reflexes. It was as if his body and hers were part of the same machine, each movement perfectly balanced. The beast yanked its tail free, the force nearly pulling Jace off his feet. It spun to face him, lowering its head again. Jace stood his ground. The mark on his arm flared so hot now it almost hurt, and with it came something else. A surge of emotion that wasn't his. Confidence, pride, a cold certainty of victory. It was Soren's will, bleeding into him through the bond. The beast roared, charging again. Jace sidestepped, his foot catching the edge of a groove in the stone. He stumbled, but before he could fall, his hand reached for the small metal disc in his pocket. It pulsed once, like it recognized the danger. In his mind, for a split second, the hooded man's voice replaced Soren's. "When the bond is strongest. That is when you can break it," but the thought was gone just as fast, swept away by the heat of the fight. The beast's claws came down again. Jace leapt back, but not far enough. The edge of the talon grazed his shoulder, tearing his jacket and drawing a thin line of blood. The mark on his arm responded instantly, sending a wave of burning energy through him that drowned the pain, and then, without needing a word from Soren, he moved. He darted forward, faster than the beast could react, ducked under its arm, and drove the heel of his boot into a joint in its leg. The creature roared in pain, stumbling to one side. The crowd exploded in sound, some shouting his name, others spitting curses in alien tongues. The beast recovered, lowering itself for one final, all-out charge. Jace could see it in its stance, feel it in the bond's tension. Soren's voice came one last time, calm, steady, and filled with steel. "Finish it." The mark blazed like molten metal, and Jace ran forward to meet the beast head-on. The meaning revealed. The beast's roar shook the arena as it lunged. Jace didn't dodge this time. He sprinted straight toward it, every muscle burning with the bond's power. The crowd's voices blurred into one deep, rolling thunder in his ears. The mark on his arm blazed so hot it felt like molten light was coursing through his veins. At the last instant, he dropped low, sliding under the beast's body. As he passed beneath its chest, his hands found the softer scales there, just like Soren's instincts had shown him. And he drove his dagger deep into the flesh. The creature let out a deafening scream, staggering forward, its massive claws scraping helplessly against the black stone floor. Jace rolled to his feet behind it, his chest heaving. One final blow, a hard kick to the wounded leg, sent the beast crashing to the ground, its golden eyes dimming. The arena went silent. Then the roar came, not from the beast, but from the crowd. Thousands of alien voices chanting, stomping, calling his name, calling her name. The air was electric with the sound. The gate at the far side opened again, not to release another monster, but to invite them forward. Soren walked toward him, her braids swaying, her silver eyes locked on his. She stopped in front of him, her voice carrying easily over the noise. "You have survived the trial. You have proven the bond." Jace pulled his arm away slightly, the glowing mark still pulsing under his skin. "I didn't ask for this bond." Her lips curved faintly. "No one ever does." She stepped closer, lowering her voice so only he could hear. "That bite you mocked as nothing. It was a choice, my choice. I chose you because you are not bound by our people's fears, because you fight even when you don't understand why." Jace's jaw tightened. "And what now? I'm your warrior?" Soren's eyes softened, but her voice held its iron. "Not just my warrior, my counterpart. The bond makes us one. Your victories will be mine, and my life will be yours to protect. If one of us falls, the other dies." The weight of her words hit him harder than the beast's charge. "So I'm chained. To you forever?" She shook her head slowly. "No, human. You're linked. There is a difference. You can choose to leave. But breaking the bond will cost you more than you can imagine." Jace's hand slipped into his pocket, feeling the thin metal disc the hooded man had given him. His fingers traced the grooves. Again. He had no idea how it worked, but he was certain it had something to do with ending the bond. He looked into Soren's silver eyes. She wasn't lying. Not exactly. But she wasn't telling him everything either. The arena gates began to close, and the crowd's chant grew louder, calling for the next step in the ritual. Soren turned toward them, raising his arm high for all to see, the glowing mark bright against his skin. The noise swelled, echoing off the stone walls like a storm breaking. Jace stood beside her, his mind caught between two truths. The bond had saved his life today, but it had also stolen a part of it. As the arena lights dimmed and the crowd's voices became a wall of sound, he realized something else. The fight was over, but the real battle, the one for his own fate, had just begun.